Good morning. Welcome to this morning's webinar, which is the purpose of accreditation. So we're going to be starting very shortly. As you can see from the message on the screen, we're not going to enable microphones during this webinar. However, we do have a Q&A session planned for the end of the webinar. So if you've got any questions you want to put forward to Crystal, who's going to be delivering the webinar today, please do drop that in the Q&A section and I will facilitate that at the end. I think we actually might be ready to start because we have pretty much everybody on board who was going to come. So I will pass you over to my colleague Crystal. Crystal is in the Development and Scheme Integrity Department, and she is going to take you through this morning's webinar, which once again is Demystifying the Purpose of Accreditation.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Laura. So welcome everyone. Today's webinar aims to provide information from UKAS that will help yourselves understand first why accreditation exists, and then how an organisation might go about obtaining accreditation. We're hoping the information is of interest to people who are employed by an accredited organisation, but also it'll be really useful for those who are not directly involved in the accreditation process itself, just to give a bit more background about what accreditation means and why it's so important. My name's Crystal Smith, as Laura says, and I am an accreditation specialist that works within the development team at UKAS. And my role is to deal with new areas of accreditation, so new areas of trade, business, that will benefit the market if they seek accreditation, and what that accreditation will look like for them. So we deal with people at the really early stages to discuss their kind of process that they'll need to go through and what accreditation looks like. So I'll go through the slides, and then, like Laura says, if you put any questions in the chat, we'll have some time at the end to cover that. So first off, what is UKAS? Who are we? So we're the sole national accreditation body for the UK, and we're going to cover what is accreditation, what the value of accreditation is to yourselves, the assessment process, how you apply for accreditation, and how we support you on that journey. So, as I said, UKAS is the sole national accreditation body for the United Kingdom. Every country in the world can have a accreditation body, and there's only one accreditation body per country under international accreditation rules. We're recognised and appointed by government. And so although we are part of government, because accreditation is deemed a public authority activity and we work in the public interest for any accreditation that will be brought forward. We assess against agreed standards, and they cover a number of different services, certification, testing, inspection, calibration, and validation and verification. Now, we were founded in 1966, but became UKAS as we know it in 1995. Back in 1966, we resulted from the merging of what was NAMAS, the National Measurement Accreditation Service, and the NACCB, which was the National Accreditation Council for Certification Bodies. Before that, NAMAS was itself the result of a merger between what was NATLAS and BCS, which was the British Calibration Service. We are a not-for-profit organisation. We've currently got over 2,900 accredited customers, and of those customers, we perform approximately 32,500 assessment days a year, and this figure is increasing all the time. We're currently at around 330. I think we're actually near 350 now, full-time staff, which incorporates remote work and technical team, as well as office-based staff to manage the infrastructure of the business. Additionally, we have access to over 700 independent technical assessors, And this network of independent experts has huge importance and resource for UKAS, as it allows us to deliver suitably robust assessments in a wide range of technical areas across our entire scope of accreditation. We're always actively recruiting for both full-time assessment managers and independent technical assessors for a number of different technical areas, and you can view all vacancies in the careers section of the UKAS website. So as part of the public authority activity, UKAS, as I said, has been provided with the privilege and remit to undertake national accreditation body status, and we operate under a memorandum of understanding with the government through what's currently the Department for Business and Trade. This slide, obviously, it's a busy slide, so I don't expect you to read it all, but it just provides you with an illustration of kind of the breadth and depth of government departments and other stakeholders who we work with, that associations and professional bodies. And this allows us to develop and deliver a robust accreditation service that adequately represents the growing and development interests of the nation across all areas of market and trade. To ensure that we deliver an effective and technically competent and professional service, we'll make sure that stakeholders' views, concerns, and any priorities that they might have that are newly developed, if you like, as well as ongoing, are then fed into our strategic planning processes. And this is through mechanisms like our Policy Advisory Forum and Council, as well as our technical advisory committees that cover the areas of technical expertise that we accredit and certify to. So this is supported, as we said, with policymakers in the government departments, agencies and regulators. And this allows us to explore how accreditation can be used to support kind of better risk-based, outcome-focused policies that benefit all. There's also a lot of steering groups that we work with, which allows effective and efficient delivery of accreditation that matches what the market requires. Right. So first off, what is accreditation and how does UKAS fit into this? So as we can see, this slide shows the symbols of accreditation that we use, and these are the marks that our accredited organisations can display to signify that they've been granted accreditation in those fields. It also shows the wide variety of accredited activities available to serve many different industries and sectors. The sectors we cover and accredit to is ever evolving, and we now have over 50 new accreditation schemes and projects within development that are obviously new areas for accreditation. And as you can see from the slides, we cover calibration, inspection, management systems, personal certification, proficiency testing, and name just a few. So we have a remit, obviously provided by government, which is to provide a world of confidence in the product and services that the public relies upon. And accreditation helps facilitate national and international trade in a way that gives confidence, trust and assurance to the consumers, which ultimately use the products and services that were subject to accreditation worldwide. We deliver this through a chain of assurance. Initially, we demonstrate our national accreditation body status through peer review. We are evaluated against the international standard, which is 17011, and this standard ensures that all national accreditation bodies meet the requirements to become a national accreditation body. And this is an international standard. We are evaluated by our peers in European accreditation on behalf of IAF and ILAC, which is the International Accreditation Forum and the International Laboratories Accreditation Committee. UKAS then assesses the performance capabilities and technical competence of bodies that provide services and products to determine organisational competence and conformance with the agreed standards in that field. And this may include how they meet regulatory requirements and sector-specific and scheme requirements. It provides a layer of confidence that these accredited organisations meet expectations and supports the trust and assurance of the products and services delivered to the public and the relevant stakeholders, providing confidence, trust and assurance. So first off, accreditation is an attestation and formal recognition by ourselves as a national accreditation body of the competence, impartiality and integrity of a conformity assessment body to perform a specific task or activity related to a specific relevant standard. A conformity assessment body is a generic term that could, for example, be a certification body, a testing laboratory, a calibration laboratory, people competence, proficiency testing provider, inspection, etc. Specific standards are then used for the purpose of accreditation, which assess the applicant conformity assessment body's processes against the requirements of the standard that they're being assessed against. This is further broken down activities such as a specific test or a type of inspection. For example, in laboratory testing, COVID-19 tests, in inspection, passenger lifts, etc. The scope of accredited activity can be very specific. For example, it can be just a laboratory, or it can be a wide area, product services covering a number of areas. Whilst the terms accreditation and certification are often used interchangeably, they are two closely related but very distinct steps on the quality assurance ladder. So accreditation performs an oversight role that underpins the quality, impartiality and competence of the certification and other conformity assessment activities process. Certification is an audit of whether an organisation, product or individual conforms to the criteria that's laid out in a recognised standard or scheme such as ISO 9001, which people will know as a quality management system standard. A certification body audits the processes and systems of organisations who wish to gain accreditation, whereas UKAS and other accreditation bodies across the globe will check the checkers in effect. We ensure that the certification bodies that can be relied upon. So what does accreditation offer? What is the value of accreditation? So many businesses and organisations, such as government departments, other public sector bodies, use accreditation status as a selection criteria when evaluating external services and suppliers. As such, accreditation can offer a competitive edge to customers. Various schemes, sectors and industries may even have mandatory requirements for service providers to be accredited. Without holding accreditation, some organisations may find they're unable to provide or deliver key services in the UK or the wider international market. Such examples of this, as say forensic services in the UK, need to be accredited as 17020, which is scene of crime examination, 17025 for fingerprint comparison, body fluid recovery, DNA analysis, etc. So we also have mutual recognition. So accreditation, as I said before, is part of an international network. There's the international accreditation and European accreditation layers in this as well. And what accreditation allows is it ensures that there's equivalence and acceptance of results across the international network, which aims to remove technical barriers to trade. Therefore, UK accreditation is recognised in Italy, Middle East, etc. Tested, inspected or certified once equates to accepted everywhere. And then mutual recognition agreements are two different levels. So there's technical recognition between accreditation bodies, and the purpose of this allows the accreditation conformity assessment of any signatory to the multi-level agreement to be recognised by other members of the accreditation international market. Hence, the acceptance of product and services across national borders. And this is all based upon, as I said, peer evaluation and continued surveillance to ISO 17011, which is the accreditation body standard. EM members must also be compliant with the principles of EU accreditation regulation. There's also bilateral agreements between states, and the objective of this is to promote trade in goods between nations, which facilitates market access and aims to benefit the industry by providing easier access to conformity assessment. And again, that just clarifies that UKAS is a member for the United Kingdom to the International Accreditation Forum, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. These two are currently merging into one organisation and for global accreditation. And as I said, there's the European Cooperation for Accreditation there as well. So over the next few slides, we're going to outline key parts of the assessment process. UKAS expects all potential applicants to have implemented an active management system, which will demonstrate the following evidence, obviously included but not limited to suitable coverage of internal audits across the organisation, robust complaint handling and management of any non-conforming work, effective implementation of corrective and preventive actions, and active engagement with users, customers and clients, with objective demonstration of feedback and outcome. We have the process that starts with the preparation, as said. We offer pre-assessment, initial assessment, grant of accreditation, and then ongoing assessment through surveillance activities before reassessment at a 4-year period. There may be other aspects that are required by the standard that you are seeking application for and accreditation for, and any scheme framework requirements that may be specific to the technical areas you seek an accreditation in. And we would expect you to have level of awareness of these elements and awareness of the documents, standards and publications that exist. Some signposting that these publications will be outlaid later in the application process discussed in the presentation. So once you've prepared for the assessment process, you can send in an application form. This is accepted by UKAS. You'll be assigned a dedicated assessment manager, or EM, you may hear us term them, who'll support and guide you through this accreditation process. As part of the process, your assessment manager will propose an optional preliminary pre-assessment. This is highly recommended, and we'll ask you to consider this, especially if you're new to accreditation. So what the pre-assessment could do is involve some on-site assessment activity, a combination of a document review ahead of the formal accreditation assessment. And it also can include some remote reviewing of systems, interviewing people, key responsibilities, etc. They're a great way to highlight areas of conformance and also to outline gaps to allow you to iron out any potential problems, and it can help identify any showstoppers that could prevent you from gaining accreditation if you progress directly to the initial assessment stage without that pre-assessment. Just as importantly, it helps you understand the accreditation process and what to expect on your initial assessment. And this is the stage at which an applicant customer begins to develop their relationship with UKAS personnel and become familiar with the overall assessment process. The pre-assessment doesn't raise any findings, but it will provide you with an overview of your management system and technical activities that you've applied for that would need to be addressed before an initial assessment can take place. So what does the initial assessment look like? So we expect potential applicants to have already implemented and be working with an active management system, which, as said before, covers suitable coverage of internal audit, your complaints handling, management of any non-conforming work or incidents, putting into effect corrective action, risk-based approach and preventive actions, and any active engagement with users, customers and clients, and have objective demonstration of feedback and outcomes of this. There may be other aspects as required by your relevant applied for standard, as we said before, any scheme framework requirements, and publications and documents that you may need to be aware of, which we will signpost you to. So before accreditation is granted, obviously at this stage we've been and done the initial assessment. We'll leave you with a recommendation whether, yes, you're ready to proceed to accreditation based on the satisfactory close out of any findings that may have been raised, or no, you're not quite there yet, and we'll help you with the steps you need to take to get there. Assuming you've been recommended for accreditation, we'll send you an offer of accreditation letter and a draft copy of your schedule of accreditation, which will list the technical scope that you've been assessed for, and also an estimate of the assessment days required for the ongoing accreditation process known as the 4-year cycle. To continue with your grant of accreditation, you'll need to review your draft schedule and form, and at the end of the offer of accreditation letter, you'll need to complete, sign and date it and return it to UKAS, and of course pay any outstanding fees that may be there on the system. Once all documentation is received and the recommendations are accepted, the decision maker can grant accreditation and your 4-year cycle would commence. At that point, you receive a formal grant of accreditation and a verifiable accreditation e-certificate, which can be scanned by any of your clients to provide them with confidence in your accreditation scope and to protect your accreditation status. A schedule of accreditation, which lists all the scope of accredited activities, is then uploaded to the UKAS website, which allows prospective clients out there in the marketplace to view when they're evaluating and selecting specific services in your field. You'll also receive the relevant symbols, the little symbols I showed earlier with the UKAS symbols on and the statement of the area of accreditation you've received. And you also receive information on how to use these symbols. So can you issue them on reports? Can you put them on emails? Can you put them on documentation, etc.? As I said, there's ongoing assessment. There's a 4-year cycle. And what we'll do across that 4-year cycle is we'll continue to look at your technical areas and your quality management system on what we call surveillance visits. So 6 months post-grant of accreditation, you have surveillance visits. Surveillance 3, and reassessment. So just a general infographic there, which demonstrates the full assessment. As I said, you've got initial application, you've got the contract review, pre-assessment if applicable, initial assessment, which has on-site check of records, interviews with staff, direct witnessing of technical activities. We've then got the decision-making process and the grant of accreditation, and then surveillance 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being the reassessment. So how do you apply for accreditation? So first, if you familiarise yourself with the clauses in the relevant accreditation standard, you must have a copy of the relevant standard and be aware of the potential impacts on your service. These can be purchased from sources such as BSI, which is the British Standards Institute, or ISO, which is the International Standards Organisation. Some standards, such as quality standards for imaging and improving quality in physiological services, are freely available to customers. You then need to undertake a gap analysis, on what your current provision of service is, against which standard you are seeking accreditation for, and we require this to ensure that you're actually ready to fulfil the accreditation requirements and that we don't deliver an assessment that you were unable to complete because you're not yet ready. The UKAS website has links to various mandatory publications, and those are international publications, both European and international. You can also access the European and international websites and get these documents downloaded from them. But UKAS also has its own technical policy statements that are designed to ensure, if you incorporate them into your systems, that you'll ensure conformance with the standards. Depending on your type of service, as I said, there may be further scheme or sector requirements that you will need to be aware of and build appropriately into your processes and services as required. Some of these are European, some of these are international. And obviously, once in your application process, your assessment manager can signpost you to the relevant ones. You need to complete all the relevant application forms, ensuring your documentation is double checked prior to submission, and this ensures that all mandatory requirements are fulfilled to prevent any delays. Submitting documentation includes the application form, the accreditation category you're seeking accreditation in. It's more commonly known as the AC form, and also the supporting documents as outlined and relevant to your sector. A signed agreement is required to confirm your adherence to the terms of business, and a fee is required at application stage to allow us to process this. Once accepted and financial checks have been completed, you'll be assigned your assessment manager, as we said previously, who will then contact you regarding your application to discuss the composition of your organisation, who you are, what you do, and the submitted documentations and whether any further information is required to progress your application to the assessment stage. It's also a perfect opportunity for you to raise any questions on the assessment process and discuss pre-assessment options and whether that's something you wish to consider for your business. And obviously that support and guidance is there from your assessment manager. So if you'd like to find out more about how ready your organisation is to proceed with accreditation, there's a number of resources available to help support you on your journey. We've developed a series of self-assessment tools across a number of standards, as you can see on the slide there, and this is to help your organisation decide whether accreditation is right for you. You can access these via the UKAS website under Readiness Self-Assessment Tool, and what it does, it comprises a set of questions designed to allow you to check your current policies and systems against the expectations of the standard. They're against the criteria, and there's 3 potential responses: yes, no, and somewhat/partially ready. And you can use these to see how closely you feel you meet the requirements of the standard. It's best completed by individuals who have a good understanding of the organisation, who manage and perform the technical activities, and who are responsible for aspects of quality and customer management. To also help in the journey, as I said, there's a lot of UKAS publications, and you may be required to adhere to them to gain your accreditation. Some of them are absolutely mandatory, so it's worth having a look at the publications section on the UKAS website, where you'll find our publications as well as links to the international and European accreditation websites. You can also sign up to monthly updates, which are really invaluable in keeping you informed of any updates or revisions of any publications, and also includes information on various standards that might be out for consultation, have been updated, or indeed may have been withdrawn. Also, to support our accreditation work, we offer public and on-site training courses, as well as providing internationally advisory services. So whilst training is not a mandatory requirement to gain accreditation, sometimes it's useful to give you that bit more knowledge of some of the more complex areas of your standard, and indeed provide the tools and techniques to fill in any gaps you may have and ensure your systems and processes are developed in line with requirements for accreditation. These courses are both face-to-face and digital. There's charges for the UKAS Training Academy courses, but also some of the applications for accreditation. Once you pay your application fee, you'll also get access to kind of e-learning modules, etc., that are part of that application fee. So it's worth asking for your assessment manager and anybody in UKAS, is those resources available for the standard that you were seeking accreditation for. So our portfolio consists of courses provided for both UK and overseas delegates, and it's got knowledge and best practice of accreditation practices and conformity assessment systems. The courses are led by expert trainers who are committed to providing you with the knowledge and skills to add value to your organisation and provide confidence to your customers. All of our UKAS Academy trainers are current or previous senior assessment managers, so there's also the opportunity to ask very specific assessment related questions in relation to your standard. What we won't do is provide kind of personalised consultancy related advice, because we're not allowed to provide consultancy. So, is there any questions that have come through, or any queries you may have? Everything discussed and any queries that we don't get to address in this will be transcribed into our frequently asked questions and allow you to review this after the webinar, so you've got that chance to have a look at things. So thank you for listening, and I'll hand over to Laura, who'll take me through any questions. And also, just like to point out, you can follow us on our social media pages and LinkedIn and Twitter, and it's the best source of information for regular updates on UKAS accreditation and any training courses. We'll also send you a short survey after this, and would appreciate your feedback on the session and what other aspects we can provide to support you through the accreditation process. So, Laura?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Thank you very much for taking us through a really clear overview of the basics, really, what accreditation is, what UKAS does as an organisation to allow people to gain accreditation. We have had one question so far, so I would still encourage people, if they've got anything they'd like to ask, please do drop that in the Q&A session, and Crystal and I can look at that now. With regards to the webinar, I will be sending round afterwards a recording of the webinar, so you'll gain access to that, as well as the Q&A document, which will be updated as well. And for future reference, we will be repeating this as we do roughly every quarter. So on to the Q&A. We have had a question. Someone has asked, some companies issue ISO 9001 certificates, even though they are not certified with UKAS. Is that legal? I think what this person's actually asking is probably that the certification body is not accredited by UKAS. So basically questioning the legality of non-accredited 9001 certificates. And I believe that they can still be used. It's that obviously we would suggest that perhaps there's more value to an accredited certification. Is that how you would interpret that, Crystal?
Absolutely. So certification bodies can certify to ISO 9001. And obviously the organisation has to have a quality management system that conforms with 9001. We do accredit certification bodies to be able to deliver that certification process, and obviously that is the ideal situation. What we would say, if there's ever any question about the legality of any certificate you see, you can get in touch with UKAS, and we'll certainly check the kind of the legality of the process and check if they're using certification incorrectly, and we will manage that internally and get in touch with the relevant certification bodies. So if you're ever in any doubt as to whether the company you are using has kind of legal certification, if you like, you get in touch. There's also an organisation called, there's a facility UKAS has called Search Check, and you can access that via our website. And basically,
I'll drop the link to Search Check in the chat, actually. I was going to talk about that. That's for management systems certification specifically. And yeah, Crystal's right. That's a very quick and easy way of just verifying that organisation is accredited at that time, and just verifies the validity of that particular certification.
Absolutely. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, get in touch and we'll give you more information. I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a couple more. Somebody has asked regarding the training portal, who can sign up and what are the requirements for signing up to the training portal?
Right. So the training courses, if you go through the UKAS Training Academy, for the specific training courses, the cost is per person. You can get in touch with training and see if they can deliver a course bespoke to your organisation for a reduced fee, because you've got a number of people who want to participate in that course, and that's something that we can do. We can make bespoke courses for your requirements. With regards to the other side of things that I was talking about, that's some standards, when you apply for them, you get access to e-modules along with the application process. Those e-modules are available to anybody in your organisation. So we'll send you a link to the training modules, and you can kind of disseminate that information as you see fit. So external training academy courses are per person. Post-application e-modules are per organisation.
Okay, we've had a slightly more technical question here as well. Someone has asked, if I am trying to internalise pipettes calibration, do I require certification or accreditation to 17025? So would they need to get accredited, or would they simply need to get certified by an accredited CB?
If you are providing a calibration service to your customers and wanting to issue a calibration certificate, you need to get accredited for 17025, which is the calibration standard. If you just want to do internal checks on your pipettes for your purposes, you can bring in a 17025 calibration organisation to provide you with that 17025 calibration certificate. And for a fee, they'll do a calibration activity on all of your pipettes. That's if you require traceable calibration. If it's just an in-house check that you're doing, you already have your traceable calibration once a year, but every 6 months you want to check that your pipettes are still fit for purpose. So it's more of a performance check than a traceable calibration. You can do that yourself. It really depends on what the pipettes are being used for. So if your pipettes internally are being used for critical measurements, then there will need to be that traceable calibration, be that by an external company or you yourselves becoming 17025 calibrated. Hopefully that answers your question very quickly. It is a minefield, is calibration testing, and if you've got very specific question, please get in touch with UKAS separately, and we can put you in touch with a calibration expert who can decide what your requirements are.
Thank you. We have had some other questions. Other than reputation and trust, what are some of the benefits of being accredited? Interesting one.
Mm-hmm. So from you as an organisation, if you were the accredited organisation, some kind of edicts from government, etc., insist that you need accreditation to apply for contracts. So where there's regulatory requirements for accreditation, you must be accredited to be able to kind of tout for business, tender for business for certain contracts. So that's a given that in those areas, then if you're wanting to participate in the field, you do need that accreditation. Another one is it provides you self-confidence with your own quality management system and your own technical activities. So you have experts coming in against a recognised international standard in your field and telling you that after assessment, your systems, your activities, your policies are fit for purpose. So provide yourself with the confidence that you're doing things correctly. And again, that same thing comes within the rest of the market as well. If you go forward with your accreditation certificate or your certification certificate, other people, competitors, business, suppliers, they all look and they know you have been recognised at your level of quality for both the activities you perform and your quality management system and how you deal with your policies and procedures.
Yeah, I certainly found when I've spoken to a lot of customers doing case studies, that one of the they've found that sort of identification of efficiencies has been a big part of a benefit for accreditation. So whether that's skills management by going through the process of identifying various skills in other staff members and conducting skills review, they've been able to see where those skills can be transferred around the organisation. Training records are always very easily accessed and reviewed as part of the quality management system. That's helped enormously for onboarding and recruitment, things like that. And just general document control as well through the QMS. And a lot of organisations from all sectors have found that. Within the healthcare area, one of the things that recent people I've talked to have said is that patient feedback has actually they've seen an improvement, and in terms of collating feedback, acting on it, being really transparent with their patient about what happens to that feedback, and that there have been benefits with those areas as well as even things like equipment management and change control. So there's a wealth of benefits. And what I'll do is when I send the recording round, I'll send some links to some case studies as well, in case there's because we do try and bring out those benefits as much as possible.
Absolutely. Prior to UKAS, so I've been for UKAS for 9 years now. I've just had my 9-year anniversary. I worked in an organisation, I worked in the NHS and I ran a microbiology laboratory within pathology. So we always had accreditation, and it was something we kind of grew up with, if you like, through the service. And what it also does is when there's regulators in certain areas, if they say that our organisation has accreditation, it provides them with a level of confidence as well. So within the NHS, CQC come in and as a regulator and look at all of the different departments in an NHS organisation, and they recognise pathology as already having a high level of standard quality because they are accredited. And that works in other areas as well. People like the MHRA, when they come in and look at different organisations, the HSE, if there's any incidents, and you show you're an accredited organisation, it already gives them some level of confidence that you're working to a very high conformity and competent standard. So it is that. I've just noticed there, Laura, in the past, in the question and answer, it does mention costs.
Yes, that's just coming on to that. That's a different question. Yeah.
Yes.
Someone has asked, what is the breakdown of cost for the audit to be completed? Yes.
That is, honestly, it's completely unique to your business. So there is a terms of business section on the UKAS website, and it does tell you what our day rates are when we come in to assess. But until we know what the size of your organisation is it multinational? Is it a small sole trader? What the size of your business is, what activities you are wishing to seek accreditation for, how many different types of technical activities you perform, is it certification for persons, is it for product? It's very much based on those kind of information and facts that we need to gather before we can give you an idea of what that audit would look like. So obviously would come out and would assess, but depending on how big you are and what your activities are, the team looks very different each time. So you would need to get in touch with someone within UKAS to discuss that further and give you some idea of very bespoke costs.
Great, thank you. We have had a couple more questions dropped into the chat area. Somebody has asked, does digital forensic on scene need to be accredited for 17020?
Right, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Forensics is not my area of expertise, and I know there's a lot of decisions being made currently by the forensic science regulator regarding scene of crime and digital forensics. So the best person to ask about that is probably the forensic science regulator, or indeed send an email to ourselves and we'll direct it to the forensics department who'll be able to answer that question.
I have the name of the person that's asked that question, so I can go back to them offline.
Brilliant.
And then final question, somebody's asked, will we be sharing the slides? Yes, we will. I can share those as well. So that does, unless anyone has anything further to add, bring us to the end of the Q&A. Looks like we're done.
Lovely. Thanks very much for attending, everyone. And
yes.
as Laura said, it is a recurring webinar, and there's 3 webinars within that series. So please, if you found today interesting and useful, please do join us for the rest.
Yes, thank you so much.